Hey, Facebook friends, it's Donna Skoglund. I am a yoga teacher and a yoga health coach, and I help yogis create healthy habits and daily routines so that they can have more energy, less stress, so that they can live with more balance, more joy, and more integrity with the life that they really want. Today, I'm going to talk about why our efforts to be good don't work. And I want to start with defining what does it mean to be good. Be good or being good is when we make choices that are in alignment with our highest intentions. It's really being in integrity with our goals and what we really want for ourselves. But more often than not, the devil on our shoulder wins. For example, let me give you some real life examples for this. Say you want to lose some weight and you know you need to cut down on your sugar intake, but you go to work and someone shows up with freshly baked cookies and you just can't resist. And so you cave, you give in to temptation. Or let's say you really want to start waking up earlier because you tend to start the day feeling rushed and 2 steps behind, and you don't have time for yourself. You'd like to start journaling or maybe doing a little bit of meditation or some stretching or yoga before you start your day. But the alarm goes off and you hit the snooze button and your bed is just so cozy and comfy that you don't want to get out. And so you sleep in and it doesn't happen. Or let's say you're having trouble sleeping and you know you need to unplug and you're probably spending too much time on screens. You probably heard that screens disrupt the production of melatonin, a very important sleep hormone, and you want to shut off. You decide you're gonna shut off your phone at like 7, 8, and then you're gonna read in bed or do something relaxing. But you just check one little thing. I'm just going to go on Instagram and just check one thing. And you do. And then you end up being there for an hour and it's late and that whole plan didn't go. Sabotage ourselves constantly and keep doing things when we know better, when we go against our better judgment. And let me preface by saying that this is completely normal. You are human, and we are hardwired as human beings to choose instant gratification over future benefits. This has been proven by studies. We are hardwired to take the path of least resistance and to stay comfortable and safe and what's familiar and easy. But that doesn't serve us, and we know it doesn't serve us because we keep doing these things and then we feel bad about ourselves, and it just perpetuates the cycle. So today I want to talk about 5 things you need to know to really be effective at making the changes you want and making the right choices and being able to stay consistent on your path towards the goals that you have set out for yourself. Because having the goal, having the intention, having the idea of doing something good is simply not enough, because the pull towards our inner rebel is just so strong that we just end up, it just takes over most of the time. Let me just pause for a second and let you know that if you see lines on my face, that's because I just came from an hour massage of having my face smashed into a pillow, and I didn't really take that into account when I was planning this Facebook Live session. So FYI. The 5 things you need to know. Number 1 is willpower doesn't work. So simply deciding like, I'm gonna do what I said I'm gonna do, it doesn't work. And let me tell you why we are hardwired for instant gratification. And it's something called a time inconsistency. When we make a plan to do something good, for example, wake up early or cut down on sugar or cut down on drinking or whatever it is, the change that you want to make is, we have a plan and we see like, okay, I need to do this, this, and this to get me to where I want to go. And in that moment, we're thinking about our future self and we're planning for our future self, which is really easy because in this moment, we don't really have to do anything. We just have to plan what we need to do in the future. But when the time comes to actually make that decision, whether it is get out of bed at 6 in the morning or say no to that temptation. In the moment, we make choices based on our present self. And the present self, as I mentioned before, is the one that just wants to feel good now. So the only way that we can overcome this is to make our good choices the default and to automate good choices in our lives so we don't have to make the choice. It just happens all on its own. Like, wouldn't that be nice to just do the right thing all on its own, where you are waking up early and that's just what you do. That's just who you are. You are eating the right foods. You are exercising. You are taking time to relax and wind down at the end of the day so that you can get a really good rejuvenative night's sleep. All right, back to our 5 things that you need to know if you want to make that stuff happen. 1, willpower doesn't work. It doesn't work because it is a finite resource that runs out and is usually just not there when we need it the most. What does work is our environment. Our environment is constantly triggering behaviors. And when we see something, it reminds us, it's like a cue that reminds us to do something. And this is why, one of the reasons why clutter is so annoying for me, because on a subconscious level, it's like, oh, I got to clean that up. So part of my attention is being pulled towards these things in my environment. When I used to eat a lot of chocolate, my chocolate bar was in my kitchen counter where I would see it constantly. So that triggered me every time I saw it to have some of it. And we can even not be even thinking about something, but once we actually see it, we just start thinking about, oh, that sounds good. That looks good. I want that. So we need to create an environment that supports the behaviors that we want and the choices that we want to make and the habits we want to develop, the habits that we want to automate and make our default pattern. Number 2 is we are extremely influenced by not only our physical environment, but the people. Influenced by our social community. And this is something that I've written in a blog post recently on this concept called social contagion. It's almost like behaviors are contagious. And again, this is very subconscious. We're sometimes not even aware of it, and sometimes we are aware of it. And we need to, if we're around people that have habits that we're trying to break, say you are smoking and you want to quit smoking, but all of your friends smoke. And when you hang out, you guys all smoke together. It's going to be really hard to break that habit when you have that temptation staring at you in the face. And that's, our social circles become part of our identity, and we just become people that do that. I have a student who really wants to cut down on her drinking, and she realized that it's so much a part of what her social circle is all about. They start drinking, early, and that's how they connect. That's what they do when they're together. So it's really hard. You need to create some distance, at least until you establish your new identity and your new habits. Number 3 is we're really bad at being accountable to ourselves. We break promises to ourselves all the time. Now, we need to have some sort of external accountability. Now, this could be someone else that you're accountable to, like an accountability partner or a teacher or a mentor, or it can be something like a checklist or a calendar where you X off when you do something so that you have some sort of feedback loop where it's not just you in your own head, but you have someone actually saying, are you showing up? Are you doing this? Or come on, let's do this together. Or you see for yourself that you're not doing it. And when we make progress, when we see that we are doing something, that is the most thing that's very motivating. That inspires us to keep going and keep it up. Number 3 is we usually plan for best case scenario. We have a plan, we're going to do this, it's going to happen so seamlessly and so easily. And in our mind, we just think of, okay, I just need to do this, this, and this, no big deal. But obstacles inevitably arise. A lot of obstacles that arise are the ones that are internal, the internal resistance that arises, but sometimes it's external as well. Like the person that shows up when you're on a diet with freshly baked cookies, or your kids stressing you out, and then you need that glass of wine when you said you weren't going to have that glass of wine tonight. So you want to plan for those obstacles. You actually want to think of in advance what might happen that might get in my way of doing this habit or making this change or making this choice that I really want to make. And when we plan a little strategy around those obstacles and we set an implementation action or intention, that is basically an if-then statement. If someone shows up with freshly baked cookies, then I'm going to go into the other room and make myself a cup of tea and distract myself, whatever your plan is. Number 3 is that we tend to have an all or nothing mentality. And this is very connected with kind of being like a perfectionist, where we think that we have these great ideas of things that we want to change in our life. So we want to do an overhaul. We want to change it all at once. And we can sustain that with willpower for a very short period of time. And then when we realize it's all too much to change all at once, I can't keep this up, then we default to back to exactly where we were. So it ends up, all or nothing ends up being nothing, because we somehow feel that small changes, tiny baby steps, don't count. They don't amount to anything. They're not really gaining any traction, but it's totally not true. Real change happens slowly over time. Now, let's apply this to your own life. Think for a moment, what is something that you really want to change? What's a new habit that you want to create? What's something that you know you need to do that you're not doing? We'll go through the 5 things. 1, does your environment support you in this change, in this new habit? Is there things reminding you to do this that are things that you can see, visual reminders, visual cues? Number 2, do your friends do this, or have they achieved this, or do they, have they been successful at this change or this habit? Are you around people that are really pulling you up, that are holding you to that higher standard, or are the people that you're hanging out with dragging you down and back to those old patterns? This is really big. Number 3, do you have some sort of accountability? Do you have someone that is holding you to the promise that you're making to yourself? Do you have some sort of tracking system to hold yourself accountable? When we're accountable to other people, peer support makes us 85% more likely to be successful and stick to our goals, as opposed to 10% when we don't have any support. That's a big change. That's a big difference. And the last thing is, and actually last 2, number 4 is, do you have a plan for obstacles that might arise, like when you don't feel like doing things, or when you want to procrastinate, or when there's that internal resistance of maybe this negative self-talk of, oh, I don't want to do this, I can't do this, or whatever that may be, or external challenges that might arise. Think through that. Think of, and this is called defensive pessimism. It's great to be optimistic and all, but it's good to also be defensively pessimistic of like what might go wrong and what will I do when that happens. Number 4, are you taking a small baby step approach to this change that you want to make? Are you breaking it down into the tiniest 1% improvements and working those consistently? Hope this was helpful. I'd love to hear what change you want to make, or what's the habit that you're really trying to adopt in your own life, and we can work through it together. So share in the comments below, and I look forward to hearing from you.